What's going on, everyone? Chris Mack coming at you today with the Mattel DC Multiverse The Reaper from Batman Year 2 action figure. If you guys want to grab this awesome figure, unfortunately, since Mattel kind of discontinued the line back in the day, which we'll talk about that in a moment, it is available on the secondary market. At the time of this recording, I see it is available both on eBay and Amazon. So if you want to grab it, highly recommend it. This was part of the Rookie Build-A-Figure wave. If you don't know what the Rookie is, we'll talk about that here in a second. So I love the awesome artwork there. Old school DC Multiverse there on the side. Love, what do you call that? The artist rendition here on the side. There is the read-up there on the side, so I'll get a close-up so you can read about the Reaper at your convenience. On the back, get a close-up of all the figures you need to build the Rookie. What is the Rookie? At the latter half of Scott Snyder's Batman New 52, Batman has essentially kind of lost his reborn in a sense. No longer Batman, so Jim Gordon becomes Batman, and his bat suit is a mecha Batman outfit. It was kind of cool, but I'm glad it didn't last for a long time. Come back around to this side, it's just a window. Love the DC logo there. Nothing really on the bottom, and then the cool DC Multiverse on the top. So with all that gushing aside, is this an awesome figure or not? Let's get the Reaper out and get a closer look at him. Judson Caspian was created by Mike W. Barr and Alan Davis. His first appearance was Batman Year 2 in Detective Comics number 575 from June 1987. After losing his wife to a robber in the streets, he becomes the Reaper, who prowls Gotham City during the 50s, targeting public menaces and murdering them with a scythe. The Reaper preferred killing criminals rather than capturing them. Caspian's actions had a definite impact on the criminal element in Gotham, making it one of the lowest in the country. After disappearing for several decades, Caspian returns from Europe and once again brings his brand of justice to Gotham, murdering criminals and bringing them face to face with the Batman. The Reaper, with his years of experience, proves too much for the Dark Knight, making Batman resort to desperate measures, as well as recruiting some unexpected allies. An added bonus, this comic art was the inspiration for the 1993 film Batman Mask of the Phantasm. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out. And if you have seen it, grab some popcorn and go rewatch the film. Also, make sure to check out the comics as well. It's an excellent read. We did a review on the series as well as the McFarlane's Year 2 Batman. I'll make sure to leave the cards throughout the video. And that was one of the things that really did make Year 2 stand out, was the latter half of the arc. The pencils were done by Todd McFarlane, and it is a crazy ride. Highly recommend it. Now, as for the figure in and of itself, it is beautifully sculpted. He comes with two scythes, and they just pop into his hands so you can swap out the hands. He comes with two fist hands, matches the armor very well, and the armor is supposed to be leather, so this kind of, in a sense, reminds me of Gary Oldman's Vlad the Impaler armor from the Bram Stoker Dracula film from the 90s. Unfortunately, that's the only accessories he comes with. I'm glad that there's two scythes, so the spikes look absolutely awesome. And this was an earlier Mattel figure. Speaking of, I do hope that if Mattel is taking the line back from McFarlane, that they do better, because McFarlane really did. I mean, yes, there are some problems with the figures, but overall, he really did set them apart from what the Mattel DC Multiverse did. And I hope that they take notes and they just don't resort to going back to doing just your regular standard figures like this, because us as collectors, we have gotten too spoiled on the more high-end action figures. Now, what are those things called? Paint apps. I have not had enough coffee today, folks. Since his armor is supposed to be leather, looks relatively good. You can kind of see the streaks where the leather would be part of the body. Musculature looks good. Love the use of the studs here on the chest piece. And it kind of flaps over. I mean, it looks a little bulky, but nonetheless looks good. The one thing that I wish they would have done is when you read the comic, every time they do a picture of him as the Reaper, he usually has like red dots in his eyes. And you can kind of see that they gave him some sculpted silver eyes in here, which is all right. But I wish they would have made it more pronounced, or even made it like translucent in a way for like the light to reflect, to just give it a more ominous look. So when you're just looking straight on, you don't really see that silver in there, which makes it kind of frustrating. But the skull here is absolutely gorgeous. I love the way it looks with this hood. And I do hope that eventually we'll start getting, like with McFarlane and Mafex, how we got the cloth capes, other than these ugly, nasty, I hate these capes. But I hope that we start getting the hoods to be cloth too, where you could pull those back, because these plastic ones, it hinders mobility on the head sculpt, so you're just kind of stuck with that. And of course, it's your standard ugly cape. And because it's so big, it has a peg to keep it from going on his back. And this is another reason why I hate these giant-ass capes, is because they just weigh the character down. There's no way to really properly stand them up. And this is with almost any figure, from Hasbro to the old school Mattel. It's just, you're kind of at the mercy of how you can get them to pose. And then you can't sit down. That's why I absolutely hate these flapping, ugly capes. So I hope that if we get a re-release, whether it be a new Mattel or a multiverse from McFarlane, or even if Mafex decides to do it, I hope that this is cloth, because for lack of a better term, this is bullshit. I hate these so much, if you guys have watched my videos. Now, as for the articulation, thankfully this chest piece doesn't really hinder too bad. Well, it kind of does. You see, you can kind of almost get a 360, but not really. You can at least pull him arm out that far. He does have the swivel. And it has some okay motion as long as you can get it under that chest piece. Single jointed elbow, because this is an older figure. Of course, the wrists go in and out. And if you guys do decide to get this figure, make sure to warm him up. I was surprised. When I took him out, he was stiff as a board. I couldn't do jack squat with this dude. And then the size, when you put him on his hand, it just twists. There's no articulation in there. Because in the comics, he slips his hands in there, and this can become a scythe or a gun. So I kind of wish that they would have maybe made that a little bit more pronounced, but it is what it is. The spikes on the shoulders and the knees look awesome. I wish they would have given it more of a silver sheen like the scythes, just to give it just a little more pronunciation, but I think they did that just for the sake of being comic accurate. Spikes on the boots are awesome. And in old Mattel fashion, they can go down that far. And thankfully, because they pushed the cape out, you can get a full range backwards, so I appreciate that. It does twist. Legs can go out that far. Upper thigh cut. And of course, the ugly single jointed knees. Thankfully, you can twist there. Foot goes up, foot goes down. This foot is still kind of stiff. Let's see if we can get the better articulation. Oof. This knee, also be careful. I don't know if it's just this one, but this knee joint is really acting like it wants to go out. So every time I start to spin it, I can feel it starting to get loose. So I'm betting you 10-1. Probably by the time I'm done photographing that, it's probably going to snap off. So, c'est la vie. Whatever. Yep. Not much of a foot pivot, but you at least get the up and down motion. And of course, because it's older, you don't get the toe pivot. So, old school Mattel articulation aside, just because it is part of the Batman 2 mythos, and they actually, Mattel, that's one thing I will give them. Even though there was a lot of problems with the line, they really went out and grabbed some of the most obscure ones, like the KBG Beast, the KGB Beast, the Reaper, and just cool figures like that. And they also gave us a Alfred Pennyworth, which I'd never seen really before. So I can't bash it too much, but I would really love to see an updated version of this figure. He deserves it. I feel like Batman Year 2 is definitely underrated because it's kind of overshadowed by Mask of the Phantasm. This is an excellent film, but for us comic fans that, inspired that movie, Judson Caspian really deserves that type of respect as one of those villains that gave Batman a run for his money. Now here's our Reaper next to the McFarlane Gold Label Year 2 Batman that came out a couple of years back. We have gone over this figure, so I'll make sure to leave a card somewhere in this review for you guys to check out after this video. As we were talking about, if Mattel is definitely taking the toy line back, they have got to do better. I mean, McFarlane, for the most part, kind of learned from his first wave and really started to improve upon the figures. And I kind of feel like Mattel was there for a while. Their multiverse figure of Alfred, spectacular. We've gone over that figure as well. But this one suffers from everything that irks my Gurk about Hasbro. The big, nasty, bulky plastic capes, those things. I mean, you can see how McFarlane was starting to use the cloth capes before the bendy wire. So it made this figure look really nice. But this one, as we talked about, that cape weighs him down. He's beautiful to look at, and I wish that his eyes kind of have more of a red sockets like in the comics. But hey, it is what it is. Hopefully maybe we'll get a nice re-release with a bendy wire cape. If so, I would definitely sell this one for that one. But what are your thoughts on this Mattel Reaper? Do you dig it? Do you find it cumbersome? I don't know. I love both of them. And also, as you can see, this one is a 6-inch, this is a 7-inch, so the size does not add up like it did in the comics, because the Reaper towered over Batman in the artwork, and it just does not show here. So if you're going to do action figure photography like I do, you're going to have to play with perspective to make him look more threatening than we see in this scene. What do you plan to do with your Reaper and Batman action figures? Do you do action figure photography? Do you just put them on a pose and just do wicked scenes? Let us know. We'd love to see pictures over on the socials. It's because of my love for Batman Year 2 is why I picked up this figure. For what it is, I enjoy it. Though I think I've just gotten too spoiled on what McFarlane has given us. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I love the articulation for the most part. I love that we've finally started to get to the bendy wires instead of these old plastic capes that just need to be done away with. I would love to see a revised version of this character because he deserves it. This is one of those characters that does not get talked about enough since, Mask of the Phantasm kind of overshadows it. But Batman Year 2 is definitely one of those books that you have to pick up and read the entire series. The latter half, the last three of McFarlane's artwork is absolutely spectacular. And it's just one of those that's definitely part of the Batman mythos that is recommended reading if you're a Batman fan. So, I have to say, I enjoy it. I wish that there was more to it. But nonetheless, to have it in my collection as a Batman fan, I'm a happy camper. Do you enjoy this figure? If you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop or wherever it is like to get your action figures and comics and grab this figure. If you've enjoyed this review, really would appreciate if you take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you don't mind hitting that fancy little Reaper bell, next subscribe. That way as I continue to upload content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and I love talking with you all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments or the socials, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, photo slideshow coming up next. Hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.